Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism, toxic relationships, and toxic people. Welcome back to the love bombing series. We've been talking about love bombing from all the different kinds of narcissists, the grandiose narcissists and their grand gifts and grand nights out, to the vulnerable narcissists and their oversharing over early. Today we're going to talk about something that could probably be a 10-second video, which is love bombing with a neglectful narcissist, but it's a little bit more complicated than you think. And as always, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe, join this fantastic community, read those comments. You're going to learn a lot. And if you like this video, give us that thumbs up. But let's go. Let's talk about it. Love bombing with a neglectful narcissist. Now, this series is designed to sort of break love bombing down in all its different forms. Part of this is because people will say, I don't know, I didn't get 10 dozen roses and I didn't get any presents. Was I not love bombed? Pretty much everyone in a narcissistic relationship is. It just looks very different. So when I was thinking about this idea of love bombing with a neglectful narcissist, it was sort of an interesting one, because the idea that this kind of a narcissistic person would love bomb almost seems silly, since they're so cut off, so unavailable. But like all narcissistic people, the mask stays on long enough to keep your attention and draw you in. Yeah, this is actually going to be a slightly shorter video because of all the types. This is definitely the narcissistic type that is probably the least ostensibly love bombing, and their love bombing is not at all robust. The neglectful narcissist is a person who is simply not present. They view people as conveniences or requirements or protocols, and they view people through a sort of an instrumental lens. They notice you when you are useful. Otherwise, you could wave your hand in front of their face and they will not notice you. So, what could love bombing with a neglectful narcissist look like? I think that neglectful narcissists take advantage of narrow windows of opportunity and short courtships. They may want to get into a relationship to sort of tick a box, a cultural or societal pressure to be in a long-term relationship, or to legitimize themselves within their social group, or because perhaps being married or something like that looks better for their career. So they are looking to land someone fast. Neglectful narcissists likely take advantage of good timing and finding someone who may be on their time frame or for some other practical or cultural reason. The target of the neglectful narcissist may not expect a long and meaningful courtship, but rather they may also feel some sort of pressure to get into a relationship. And all of this pressure, they're not noticing that this person isn't noticing them. The neglectful narcissist, who is completely and egocentrically oriented to only their own needs, can play a game long enough to get someone locked in, and then it's a lifetime of ignoring whomever they get into a relationship with unless they need them. Love bombing with a neglectful narcissist won't be flashy or elaborate. Neglectful narcissistic people may actually pull in partners who may not know their own value, or may have been told that they don't deserve all that much, or have been fed low expectations their whole lives. Neglectful narcissists are able to draw in people who have always been told to sort of maintain low expectations around relationships, or have only observed very unhealthy relationships. With neglectful narcissists, there is also a dynamic whereby you feel like you need to work hard to get their attention. People who have legacy narcissistic abuse issues, especially from parents, may find that for trauma-bonded reasons, they're accustomed to having to jump through hoops to get another person's attention. So even though in the neglectful narcissistic relationship at the beginning, there's no love bombing per se, there is a dangerous precedent that the neglectful narcissists their neglect and their unavailability actually becomes compelling. And a person may feel pulled to sort of jump through the hoops and try to get the neglectful narcissistic person's attention. Also, because the neglectful narcissist will pay attention to people who are doing something for them. It's not unusual for these to be relationships that begin, for example, in the workplace. And maybe you are invaluable to them at work. So a relationship may come out of the intense work relationship. But then If the time comes when your work is no longer interesting or useful to them, you may still be stuck in a relationship with them, but you will rarely get their attention. And the next time you get their attention would be if you're useful to them at work or in some form of functional capacity. So this neglectful narcissistic love bombing doesn't look like any other love bombing. If anything, the neglectful narcissist lack of accessibility and how remote they are may be what pulls for a person to want to win them over or get their attention. They're like an unavailable parent, right? So it's not what they're doing, but what they're not doing that can make them so enticing for some people. For a person with deep trauma bonds from a neglectful childhood, the neglectful partner may really push a person to want to win them over. I'm not even sure that we'll see where the love bombing ends and the devalue begins in a neglectful narcissistic relationship because they are just so unavailable. They also tend to be unromantic, distant, avoid any true intimacy, can be sexually cold or robotic, lack spontaneity. They're like a gray space. More often than not, people in relationships with neglectful narcissists blame themselves, ruminating about things like, I don't know, maybe if I was more interesting or more attractive, they'd notice me. Listen to me. You could come into the living room naked with a neon headdress and a feather boa, and they may still just say, hey, can you pass the remote? They aren't noticing. So perhaps love bombing in a neglectful narcissistic relationship is basically a vacuum, and the love bombing becomes about winning them over. At that point, after all your hard work to win them over, the buy-in is that you put in so much effort to get them to notice you, you want it to work, and may lose sight of them, never really noticing you. And in neglectful narcissistic relationships that a person might have gotten into for cultural reasons, the stigma around ending a relationship, especially a marriage, can leave people stuck in these desolate relationships for lifetimes. Neglectful narcissistic relationships are soul-sapping, invalidating, and a life of living in a hall of mirrors in which there are no reflections. You may say, well, what would have made a neglectful narcissist attractive in the first place? Maybe they're physically attractive. They may be very attractive. They may have a lot of money. They may be someone who's considered to be a good match by your community or your family. There's something that initially makes them enticing because obviously they're not that engaged with you. But then that enticing bit can make them someone that you often get compelled to try to win over, especially if that cycle has been there in other parts of your life. That's it. And if any of you have ever been love bombed by a neglectful narcissist, drop it in the comments because I'm always curious about these stories. It's often a group where the love bombing takes on a bunch of different twists and turns. It's always cool to hear about it. Thanks again.